All right, hello everyone. Thanks for joining in once again to DecoNetwork's weekly how-to and Q&A session here on YouTube Live. All right, so we're here to take your guys' questions, our users, whether that's how to do a specific workaround or maybe a specific use case. You're trying to create a product in a certain way. Ask those questions, and we'll walk you through those processes. Uh, We're still waiting on some user submitted questions. So in the meantime, I'll kind of cover some topics, which are kind of general questions that we're receiving through the support channel, both through phone calls and support tickets, which might benefit uh, everyone here on the session today. All right, so one that we do get pretty frequently through the support chat, uh, more commonly now as time is kind of moving forward towards an always SSL secured website infrastructure is, you know, about a few months ago, earlier this year, we added the ability for a website using a custom domain to enable a free SSL certificate through a service called Let's Encrypt. And that functionality works well, for your main site, which you might have your custom domain for myshop.com or whatever the case might be. Uh, the question that we are getting now is, what about my affiliate stores, right? So your main site is secured, that's all locked in. What you might be on that multi-store plan with tens or hundreds of affiliate stores. And what about them? How do I get them showing as always secured and have that SSL certificate in place? Right, so let's go ahead and take a look at what your options are. So the SSL function works only on domains that are considered custom domains. It won't be available for any system domain. Um, and there's two cases where a domain would be considered a system domain. Let's take a look at them. So I'll just configure my primary test site here, and I'll go into domain settings. And here in the domain settings section, we'll see the current domains that I have assigned to my site. Any DecoNetwork site is always going to have at least two domains, which are the default system domains. One is going to be your secure-decoration URL, which uh, is our way to provide that SSL security for all sites, regardless of whether they have a custom domain or not. And the way that works is, if I visit my site, it uses the default domain, which is not secure, but when needed, let's say on the login page or during the checkout process, we automatically switch out to this separate domain, secure-decoration, which does have that SSL security on it. All right, so that's the difference there. And so now people are wanting, again, that always-on SSL security, which means when someone's visiting their site over that default domain, which doesn't have the SSL certificate, they're wanting that functionality, right? They're wanting this to not show that not secure button there. And this is more prevalent now with browsers like Google Chrome highlighting the fact that this site doesn't have an SSL certificate. All right, even though in the case of DecoNetwork, the site is secure when necessary. So again, if you're going through the checkout process, we're going to switch you to a secure domain. So all of the information that should be going over a secure connection is, but the site just doesn't have always on SSL. So how do we kind of rectify that as the manager of the system with many affiliate stores? What kind of solution can I provide for my affiliate stores? So there's a couple things you can do. Um, the main thing, again, to understand is that SSL feature is only available for domains listed as custom domains. It's not available for your web stores that are using the global store domain function. So we do have this feature in DecoNetwork under websites, store domains to add your own custom domain as another option to choose from for your affiliate store. So let's open that up in a separate tab. Let's go back to the affiliate store management. If I edit the system domain, the one that's currently Deco Apparel, there's a huge list of domains to choose from. So all the way from Deco Apparel, Deco Shirts, Deco Shoes, Deco Uniforms, right? Those are the ones we provide. By using the store domains feature, you're adding to this list. So I could add, Deco Chris or Deco, softball, whatever the case might be. Um, so I can add my own domains there. Now, when you use that functionality, they're still going to be considered system domains, even though you're going over a custom domain that you might have. You're adding an option to the system domain. So that won't have the ability to enable SSL. So really the only thing you can do is go to that affiliate site and add the desired domain as a custom domain. And this works both, if you're using an actual custom domain through that store domains function, or if you're even wanting to secure, your default DecoNetwork domain. So what you'll want to do is, again, manage the store, come into the domain settings page for that store. And the first thing you'll want to do, assuming that you already have the desired domain set as the system domain for that site, you'll want to copy that. You're then going to edit that system domain and change it essentially to something that you don't want. You could either do that by changing the subdomain or by changing the domain itself. So I actually want ccruisebeta.decoapparel.com to be my domain, and I want that to be SSL secured. So what I'll do is I'm going to switch my domain here to DecoCat. That's one that I'm not going to be using, so I'll hit save. And what that's doing is it's freeing up ccruisebeta.decoapparel for me to add as a custom domain. So now I've freed that domain up. I can come down here to the add custom domain section, and I'm just simply going to paste it in, right? I copied that. You could also type it in if you want. Once I've done that, I can press the add button, and we'll see that added as a custom domain onto the site. What I can do is set it as the primary, and you'll see now I have this option for SSL certificate. So I can click that button. I'll have the option for a free SSL certificate from Let's Encrypt, and I can go ahead and hit save. All right, so this is kind of a workaround. You're using the fact that the system allows the SSL certificate to be enabled on a custom domain, and so you're adding your desired domain, which previously was a system domain, and you're now adding it in as a custom one and enabling SSL. All right, so now that SSL certificate is now deploying. The thing to keep in mind here is, one of the reasons we do not offer that ability to turn on SSL for the system domains is because this Let's Encrypt service that we're using does have limits in terms of how many SSL certificates can be enabled per domain, for a certain amount of time. So, if we were to allow everyone to just turn it on for this decoapparel.com domain, we would quickly hit the limits. So it is kind of a workaround, depending on how many people are doing this at any given time. For our domains, you may hit an error message when you go to enable that SSL certificate. All you need to do is, try it again at a later time. Again, it's a rate limit, so it's not a limit total. It's just, I believe it's somewhere around like 50 per week. So, if you hit an error message about it not working, you could try again later and see if it'll go through. That's for our domains. For your domains, that's less of an issue because you don't have many people trying to enable um, that certificate for your domain, right? You're the only one using that. So it's less of an issue there, except you still have that limit in place. So if you have 100 web stores that you want to enable that SSL certificate for through your custom domain, then you would want to pace those out. So you probably couldn't turn them all on one day. You'd have to spread them out over maybe a series of days. All right, but yeah, this is how you can go about turning on SSL site-wide for your sites. and that goes whether they're using, one of the default DecoNetwork domains or whether they're using a custom subdomain that you're providing using that store domains feature. All right, so it is possible. It just requires adding it in as a custom domain so that you have that SSL feature available. All right, and let's just wait we'll come back to this. We'll take a look at how the site functions, once we've enabled that SSL certificate or once it has deployed. Right now it's still in the process of deploying, so we'll give it some time. And just to kind of compare, this is the way it works now is on my site. It's using that default domain, Deco Apparel, which does not currently have SSL enabled. Google Chrome does list it as a not secure site. However, if I go in and let's say jump into the create page, or let's actually go into products and I add one of these items to my cart and then hit the checkout button. So starting that checkout process, you see up here, I'm now showing as a secure site, and it's now switched over to the secure-decoration.com domain. So that happens automatically, right? DecoNetwork is making sure that all communication between your consumer and your website is happening securely when necessary. So what we're doing now is just ensuring that it's always happening over a secure connection, even when it doesn't really matter. But the benefit there being that the web browser shows that secure icon versus the not secure one. All right, so we'll kind of wait for that to come back. We'll check on that a little bit later. Um, Guys, feel free to submit any questions. We doesn't look like we have any questions through the chat. Uh, if you guys do have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat box that you should see on the screen, and then we'll review them throughout the session. We'll pull from those and go ahead and answer them for you. All right, so we're still waiting on some questions. Next, let's jump into a tip related to products. So this is some new functionality that's kind of coming down the line. Now, for our newest signups, what we typically recommend when they're coming on to DecoNetwork is to kind of limit the availability of products that they have on their website to, just a selection, right? So oftentimes we get new signups that come in, they turn on the entire, let's say, Sanmar catalog. They now have 2,800 products live on their site. And you could see as someone that's trying to market a good, that could be overwhelming for the end consumer in terms of having just too much choice there in terms of products. You've got maybe 300 different T-shirts to choose from, and the average person doesn't really know the difference from one product to another. So what we recommend is to kind of curate that list of available products and make it easier for your consumer to do business with you by kind of funneling them to what is going to sell to those best-selling products. And the way we usually recommend to do that is, coming into the products list. My test site right here doesn't have too many products enabled, but we'll just use it as an example. So you'll come into your products list. You'll check this box here at the top of the products list, which is going to select the 15 products on the current page. And it's also going to offer this option here at the top, which is select all 325 products, or however many you have in your case. So I'll click that link. Once you've selected all the items in your system, what we recommend is to go into bulk action and then select the set availability option. Once you're there, we would recommend to turn on the first section, Business Hub and Web Stores availability, and then switch the products to option 3 in this case. The bulk selected products are available in Business Hub only. So essentially what we recommend is, take all of the products that you just added, make them available only in Business Hub. Once everything is Business Hub only, you can go back and individually curate that list of items that you do want in the store. So the way you would do that, here I'll show you an example here. So all of the items that are showing with this orange highlight on my site are Business Hub only. And so then let's assume that maybe this first item here, that's one of my best sellers. So what I'll do is I'll press Manage, Edit Product. I'll come into Availability on the left-hand side, and then I'd switch it back to option 1. So this product is available in Business Hub and in web stores. Right. So by making that change, uh, I'm now making that product available in my web store and to my end consumer. So that's what we typically recommend. Now, that's kind of the summary of what we're doing now. What I'm about to show is kind of a preview of what's coming in the next update, which makes that a little bit easier. So um, what we're enhancing in the next update is this option for product defaults. So if I click into that product defaults section, um, any product that you're adding from the supplier catalogs that we provide goes into one of the default system types like apparel, headwear, bags, things like that. And so what you're able to do in this next update is edit one of those product defaults. And under availability, we now have that option for Business Hub availability. And so you can select, an entire group of items like apparel to be available in Business Hub only. And so that, really simplifies that process of curating your products list. So what you would do is, instead of going through selecting all the products and doing it individually, you might come in and you might say, for apparel, I want that to be Business Hub only, like I've already done here. And then what you'll do is you'll create a new product default, which you might call Web Store Products. So this is also useful for organization because all of those products are now going to be grouped into their separate group. All right, so we'll call this Web Store Apparel. I'll select apparel as the default category and hit save. All right. And then what you'll do is once you have that separate product group created, you'll go back into your products list and you'll edit, let's say, an individual product again that you want to make available for your site. And here under the product defaults section under the general tab, you'll hit the change link and you'll switch it to that new option, Web Store Apparel, and hit save. All right, so the main difference there is previously we were recommending to do it kind of on an individual product basis. Now we're recommending to do it on a group product basis. So you make entire groups of products available or not available. And that makes it a lot easier to manage. These product groups have other benefits besides availability. You can, for example, set a group of products to use a different price table for your decoration methods, or you can set them to use a different product markup percentage. So there's a lot of flexibility in using these product groups to organize your products. All right, so that's the tip there. Looks like we have a couple questions, so let's go ahead and address those. Tom asks what the catalogs are that are currently available for Sublimator specifically. He mentions Conde, JDS, Johnson Plastics. So as far as product availability, let me just show the catalogs that we do have available today. So for that, we'll go into Select Catalog. All right, so this is what we have available. As far as sublimation, really there's only one supplier that we have that focuses on sublimation products, and that's the Magic Touch UK. I know they have some products like mouse mats, mugs, things like that. The remainder of the suppliers that we have beyond that are apparel. So Sanmar, Alpha Broder, BTC Ralawise in the UK, Sanmar Canada, SNS in the US here, JB's Wear and Superior Activewear in Australia, Pepini in UK. We've got American Apparel here in the US, Pencurry in the UK, and then we've got Holloway, Augusta. Those are here in the US. We have Vantage in the US, expert in the US, Wundu, I believe that's a Japanese supplier. And then we've got AutoCap and Unique Clothing. And we're starting to slowly bring in the AS Color products. So we have them available now in kind of a limited set. It looks like just 10 products for now, and we're adding more products over time. All right, so that's the list. Not a lot in terms of sublimation. I know internally we have had some discussions with some of those suppliers that you mentioned, but it's not something that that's in progress in terms of getting those available in the short term. All right, and just to kind of give more information on how that works, there definitely is a process in adding products to DecoNetwork. It's not something that you can just flip the switch on and those products would be available overnight. It does require really a relationship with that supplier. The supplier is going to have to be providing DecoNetwork with product data on a regular basis and in a specific format that we can actually use. It's going to require them to, send us product imagery in a flat way that really is suitable for the online designer. So, there's a lot of work on both ends that needs to be done, and so it really is a process and a relationship that has to kind of be built there between those two companies. Yeah, but like I said, some of those that you mentioned are some that are in discussion, so you might see them down the line. All right, next question from Anna. She's asking about Business Hub when she adds products and wants sizes. It shows a markup and costs. She wants to turn off the cost from displaying through Business Hub. So let's double check. I do believe we have that as an option. Let's just confirm here. So first, let's show what Anna's talking about here so that everybody can benefit from that. So I'm going to open up my Business Hub. And I'm going to go into, let's create a quote. So we're going to go into quotes. On the top right, I'll choose Add New Quote. And from the dropdown, I'll select myself as the customer. I'll choose Add New Product and select one of my supplier products here. We'll do this Fruit of the Loom V-neck shirt. And here under the size and quantity, so this is what Anna's describing is when you go in to set your quantities, you have the columns for supplier cost, markup, profit, and total price. So she's wanting to not display this information here. If we jump back to the admin section, I believe we have that as an option under settings. And from settings, you'll choose production and order settings, and then Business Hub order display. Not here, let's try this one here. Okay, here it is. So it's under quote, order, and invoice settings. Third option down under production and order settings. And it's a checkbox to hide the supplier cost. So if we enable hide supplier cost in Business Hub, we can save that change. And if we go back into Business Hub, it's going to let us know our configuration has changed. So we'll need a refresh to continue using it. Okay, so if I go back into quotes, once again, add a new quote, select myself as the customer, add a product, select my supplier product. This time when I go into size and quantity, I'm only seeing the final price. So I'm no longer seeing the cost, the markup, and the profit. So this is useful to turn off if you have a lot of salespeople using the Business Hub and you don't necessarily want to give them insight into how you price your items. So that's definitely a good option to highlight. Good question, Anna. Um, we've got a question from Diego who asks if it's possible to add products by importing a CSV file or doing some kind of bulk import. Yeah, we do have that option. It's actually a topic that we covered during one of our previous Q&A sessions. So what I'll do is in the description for this video, we'll kind of touch on that URL. or if I can find it during the session here, I'll paste it into the chat so you can check that video out. Essentially, through that video, I walk through the process of uh, importing products using the CSV format. I actually explain what each of the columns are in that CSV file and how to kind of put together that data that you're going to need to import your products. So to answer the question more generally, it is possible to do a product CSV import. It does require collecting a lot of information beforehand. So you're going to need things like your product names, your descriptions, your style numbers, your colors, your sizes, all of that information. You can also import the product images through that CSV import process. There are some bits of information that you won't be able to set through the import. So there is still some things that you'll have to set on a per product basis once the items are in your system, and that includes things like setting the supplier of the product, and more importantly, setting the print locations of your products. So if you're doing like apparel items, and let's say you're going to add four views onto the product: a front, a back, a left side, and a right side. Um, we're not going to set those print locations automatically. It's a little bit difficult for DecoNetwork to really know, where that should go. We don't necessarily have like an automatic algorithm to figure out, this is the left side of a shirt and it should be this big according to the product image and how it's been prepared. So that's still a visual process that needs to be done by, a person sitting in front and of the computer and looking at that image and actually saying, okay, based on this image that I'm working on, the print location should be this big versus on another product, maybe the photograph is taken a little bit differently, and so that that print location should be slightly different size. Okay. And follow up, can you modify prices from the DecoNetwork catalogs all at once? Um, that It really depends on, I guess, how that product is configured on your site. We can run through an example of when it would be possible and when it wouldn't. So let's jump back into the admin section here. We'll click into products. All right, so the newest products that you're going to find from the DecoNetwork catalogs use a pricing method called SKU pricing. SKU pricing means that the supplier is providing DecoNetwork with the price of every size and color combination, and we're actually using that SKU price. So the benefit there being that if the supplier has a slightly different price based on size and color, we actually pick that up. Before we implemented this pricing model, the way that suppliers would give us prices, they would give us one of three different price levels, either um, white, light, or dark, based on the color of the garment. And then on top of that, we applied size modifiers. So you could have like a white shirt in 2XL. The white shirt would be $5, and then we add $2 for 2XL. So it was a little bit complicated. The the SKU pricing that we use now is simple in terms of, visually you can understand it's a basic matrix of sizes and colors. And so, every size and color combination is associated with a price. So it's simple in that way. It's more complex in the sense that if you're thinking about doing a bulk price modification against a product um, that's using SKU-based pricing, that becomes a lot more difficult, right? It's not one price that you need to adjust. It's, maybe 100 prices for a single style that you would need to adjust. Um, so it's not possible for any products using SKU-based pricing. The case where it would be possible is if you were to configure that supplier item and switch it to use the older model of either single price or color type pricing, where you do a different price for white, light, and dark. If a product is using that pricing model, we do have an option here under under the products list. You can select multiple items, and then from the bulk action menu, there's an option here, modify base prices. And what this allows you to do is apply modifications against the existing price of an item. You can either add or subtract percentage, add or subtract dollar amount, or reset down to the original price that the product had. So the question is kind of yes and no. Yes, if the product is using the older pricing model. No, if it's using the newer SKU-based pricing model. Um, and as far as modifying the cost price from the supplier, that isn't possible at all. So what you're modifying only when it comes to catalog products is you're modifying your markup, which is marking up the cost, or you're modifying the final selling price, which in a way is, I guess, still modifying the markup, just you're changing the final number rather than the markup. So there is no way to change the supplier's cost. That is set by, the supplier providing DecoNetwork with that price. Um, I guess the exception to that is with some suppliers, like the major ones, Alpha Broder, SNS Activewear, Sanmar here in the US. Some of these larger suppliers do provide DecoNetwork with different price levels, which you can select from supplier account details. Then you press edit next to that supplier, and there's a section pricing where you can select from those different price levels. So typically, piece price is the highest of those three price levels, case price being the lowest or the cheapest. And so what we typically recommend our users is to select the price level that most closely matches what they're paying their supplier. So it may never be an exact match because at this time we don't have live pricing with our suppliers. So, if Alpha Broder changes the price of the Gildan 2000 and drops it by, 10 cents, you won't see that price reflected in DecoNetwork. It's more of an update process, right? We mentioned earlier, there's a lot of work that has to go on both ends um, for those products to be brought in and added into the system. So, by the time that DecoNetwork receives that information and processes it, adds the missing images, adds the print locations, that pricing may be slightly off, but you're wanting to select the one that most closely matches what you're paying your suppliers. So follow-up question there from Diego. You're working with the European providers um, that are not currently in DecoNetwork. I think you're asking if they might be in the future. Yeah, I mean, we'll continue adding suppliers over time. Um, right now, we're actually focusing more on improving the quality of the products that we already have in the system rather than adding new suppliers. But certainly over time, we'll continue adding additional suppliers as well. And then Anna has a follow-up as well. From the Gildan catalog, there's one hoodie color, black, that isn't available in extra small, but it's available in other colors. How can I modify that? Yeah, certainly we can take a look at that. So normally that's set by the supplier, but again, like I said, that data does take time to get into our system. So if that for whatever reason that's outdated, or maybe you have a way of sourcing that color in that size, you can override which size and color combinations are available. So let's show it. I'm coming in here into my products list, and I'm just going to configure a random item here. We'll choose Manage Edit Product. All right, from the Edit screen, I'll switch over to the Sizing tab here on the left-hand side. And you'll notice at the top here under Sizing, there's a link that says click here to limit the colors available per size. So what we want to do is click that link, and you're going to see a matrix that looks like this. Now for supplier products, they might be set to an option which this product doesn't have, but you might see a third option that says use supplier combinations or something like that. I don't recall exactly the label for it, but that's what it might be set to. And so you might have a configuration where some of these are checked off. Like, let's say black here was unchecked for a few of these sizes. So if you wanted to change that, what you could do is switch to either don't limit, which would make every size and color combination available, or you could choose limit colors and sizes, and then you're now specifying which ones are going to be available, right? So it's up to you to make the correct selections. You can click an entire color to make that available across all sizes. You can also click a size to make that available across all colors. So let's say, um, oh, there's also that select all button. So let's say you want to start with selecting everything, and then maybe there is one color that isn't available in a specific size. You could just uncheck that one, maybe uncheck another one. Once you've made your final selection, you can press OK and then save to apply that change. All right, so yeah, for catalog products, they might come in with a predefined limit on colors and sizes that the supplier has given DecoNetwork, which essentially is, when they send us their information, if certain SKUs were missing, like you know, small black was not there, then we'll turn that off and we'll limit that from being available. Um, but yeah, again, if you can source that product in that specific SKU and you want to enable it, that's definitely an option for you. Great questions, guys. Appreciate the questions coming in. Let's give some time to see if anyone else has questions. If not, we'll jump into probably our last tip for the day. So we'll give a little bit more time in case anyone has questions to ask. Feel free to just type them into the live chat and we'll address them that way. All right, and Diego, I did drop in the link for that previous session where we covered the product import. I dropped that link into the chat, so you can go ahead and click on that and review that at a later time. And I do recommend just kind of run through that video. It's going to explain a lot of that for you. Um, in the description of that video, we should also have the links for our help articles on that same topic. So there's two really helpful articles. One walks you through the process of doing the import. So that's what you would take a look at after you've already prepared the information. The second article is the required files for import, and that's essentially the specification documentation. So again, it explains what each of the columns does in that CSV file, what information needs to be included, how all that information ties together. And if you look at that required files article, not too far from the top of that article, there's a section with example data sets. So it's a good resource if you're looking to do that import. I usually recommend to download that sample data and use that as kind of a reference for starting to create your own CSV files. All right, so for our last tip here, we're going to jump into managing a website. So we had a question. It was actually more of a discussion that opened up while we were helping out a new licensee of DecoNetwork. They were, just getting set up, and they were having some trouble understanding, you know, the difference between how you sell a blank product versus how you sell a pre-designed product in DecoNetwork. And that's really something that um, that's important to understand right from the start. There are those two different types of products, and they're listed through two different pages on your website. So let's just run through that real quick. Um, and I'm going to explain, I guess, what we recommend is kind of the ideal setup, depending on what you're doing. So let's go into the page editor for my main site here. All right, and essentially what we're looking at is these two pages here. So we have products, which is going to list your pre-designed products, and then we have create, which is going to list your blank items. And depending on what types of products you're looking to work with, that's going to determine which page you're really going to focus on. So the specific example that I'm recalling was a customer who was looking to sell more kind of non-decoratable as-is products. So things like charms, bracelets, accessories, headbands, that type of thing. They were also looking to do, the customizable apparel, but kind of as an add-on, not necessarily as the focus. Um, and so they were kind of confused by this secondary products page and how that played into the system. So the feedback that I would give to someone that's struggling with, um, where do my products display on the site? How should I set up my site? Is if you're if you're adding your own products and those are non-decoratable products, you're going to focus on using the create page. The second scenario would be you're focusing on customized apparel or customized really anything. Once again, you're focusing on the create page. That's going to list your products with the option to customize or decorate. Really, the only case where you're going to focus on the products page is when you're going to take one of those blank customizable items, you're going to add a design onto it through the DecoNetwork system, and you're now wanting to sell that combined blank plus design. In that case, you're going to actually focus on the products page. So let's assume that we're not that last model. We're one of the first two, which are the most common. How do I actually clean up my site to reflect that functionality? Right. So what you're going to do is you're going to click into the pages section. And let's start by clicking the products page, which again is showing our pre-designed items. What I would recommend is to just relabel that from products to pre-designed products and set the page status to off. So we're actually going to turn that page off. Let's save to apply that change. And I'll repeat that same process for the designs page. So one of the things that trips people up is just the amount of different workflows that are available through the site. You can pick a design, or you can pick a blank, or you can go straight to the designer. Having too many kind of paths can introduce friction into your shopping process, right? It can confuse the customer in terms of they don't know where to go to actually make the purchase. So what I recommend is limiting that, if possible, to one workflow, one path that they take to purchase from you. And and so what I'm going to suggest here is also turn off the designs page. So turn that one off. All right, and then lastly, we're going to select our create page. So this is the one that I'm going to focus on, being that I'm offering my apparel to be decorated. So I'm going to focus on the create page. And I'm actually going to relabel it to products. So I like the products naming. I want my customer to know that this is where they go into to start designing and choose that blank that they're going to design on. So I'll relabel that to products and then save that change. All right, and then lastly, I'm also going to turn off that designer. Again, I don't want anyone jumping straight into the designer. I want them to kind of browse my product selection first, pick a blank that they like, and then jump into the designer. So I'm going to select the designer page and set that to, actually, I'm going to leave it on. I'm going to uncheck show in menu and save that change. All right, so yeah, that's essentially what I would suggest. Now let's publish those changes and we can just see how those look on my live site and what the benefit there is. So I'm going to compare kind of the way I'm using it now. Uh, if I was someone coming onto this site and I didn't necessarily know, um, where I needed to go or how this site function works, I might be confused by, there's a page here called products. There's a page called designs, a page called create, and a page called designer. Those are four unique different paths that I could take to purchase from this website. Versus if I refresh the page now and pick up the changes that I just published, sorry about the wait. It usually does take a little bit longer than usual to load the page after a recent publish of changes. So now we can see here, it's a lot cleaner. I really just have one path that my customer can take, which is the products page. So they land on my site. I could list some products on the homepage if they want to get started that way, or I could even eliminate. I would actually let's go back and do that. I would actually recommend to again clean up the path quite a bit. So I'm going to come down here and just remove these products widgets. So latest products, I'll just get rid of that. And product categories, I'll get rid of that. The only thing I would recommend, if you do want some kind of products on your homepage, maybe drop in your best sellers, like your top 5 styles that, they're your best sellers. You might drop a widget in that pulls from a category where you have those best sellers filed. I don't have that in my case, so I can't show it, but let's imagine I had a section here called best top t-shirts. I'll click that category and I'm showing my top t-shirts on my homepage. So that's the only thing I would really recommend. Beyond that, you don't want someone browsing through all of your products on the homepage. The homepage really is more to kind of give the customer information, have them land there and learn about the services that you offer and things like that. And then as far as the actual purchasing and things like that, again, you want them to go down a sales funnel. And the best way to do that is to keep it down to that single funnel, or you may open it up to a couple options, but I typically recommend just the one to make it super simple, super easy for your consumer to do business with you. All right, so yeah, I can click into the products page. I'll see a list of all of the products available. I should have the option to filter by category. So I can select, t-shirts, men's. Again, this page is going to take a little bit longer this time since I just hit publish. All right, so I could come in here, click the drop down and say, you know what, I'm looking for some hats. So I'll click the hats category. These are the hats that I'm offering now. My customer can click into any one that they like and they can start designing. All right, so it still offers that ability to go in, design on an item. It's just about you know really focusing the path that you want your consumer to take, making it super simple, making it easy and clear. That's I think the most important is making it clear to the consumer how it is that they're supposed to shop through your site. All right, so hopefully that last tip helps out there. We are out of time for today's session, so we'll leave it there. Uh, Feel free to join us next week. We'll be back on Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern Time here on YouTube. And hope to see you all here again next time. Take care.